Okay, good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning,
Good
team.
morning. Morning.
Morning.
Morning. This is the last gathering of this summer series, and I'm so pleased so many people showed up and took the time to explore their own spirituality, their own wisdom, and to share and to be guided in meditation and have a sense, hopefully a sense of what it's like. So I'm gonna mute everybody in a moment because I'm going to share something briefly and then do the arrival meditation and then go into the talk. So I'm going to mute, so you can't unmute yourself, just so in case something happens during the meditation, people won't be well, it's part of meditation to take in whatever arises, but I'm going to cheat a little and make it so it's harder for certain things to arise. So here we go. Okay. So I'd like to start kind of to frame a little bit, to give a little bit of a frame of what I'll be speaking about today in my talk. And it's based on a podcast I listened to with Bronnie Ware, who was a hospice home health provider. And she wrote a book because she spent a lot of time with these people because she would go into their homes and have conversations with them. And she wrote a book about the top 5 regrets of the dying. So I'm going to read you the 5 top regrets that people spoke to her about as they were facing death. And the first is, I wish I had the courage to live a life true to myself, not the life that others expected of me. I wish I hadn't worked so hard. I wish I'd had the courage to express my feelings. I wish I had stayed in touch with my friends. I wish that I had let myself be happier. So just let that float out there, and we'll have our arrival meditation. So we create a state of receptivity to this next 50 minutes or so. So again, I invite you to put your attention in the body and where it is making contact with whatever you're sitting on. And if you need to make any adjustments so that you're supported a little better, so that you can receive and attend to the breath without too much discomfort. I always need a good support on my back these days. It just helps me not worry about any problems with my spine. So take a moment and let yourself receive that support. Just ease into it a bit more, but no slouching, because we want the breath to be easily entering and leaving the body. And so we need a supple but upright spine, including our neck and having our head balance on the top of our neck. We don't want to nod down or back. And move the shoulders a little bit just to make sure they're not holding any undue tension. And if you feel comfortable, you can close your eyes. If not, open eyes are fine, but just keep a soft gaze. And take a fuller breath than normal. And be conscious of that fuller breath. Direct that breath And notice your lungs accepting the air. And when you exhale, let it be a little slower than normal, so that you have to be conscious that you're exhaling because you're controlling the flow. You're controlling the flow in with a bit of fullness and consciousness, and you're slowing down the exhale a little bit and being conscious of that. It's a signal to the body to relax. But we want to stay alert, so we need to keep our attention on the breath. So another 2 or 3 fuller breaths and a slower exhale at your own pace. But keep your attention there. You're directing the flow of oxygen. You're paying attention to it. And as we practice this, it's a tool that we can use in so many situations to ground us, to calm us, to bring us into the present moment, to bring us into our bodies, which we often leave our bodies out of whatever's going on. We live in our heads. Consciously breathing brings us back to the body, present. Now I'd like to try something a little different with this arrival meditation. Take an in-breath and then hold it for, say, a count of 3. Slow exhale. And don't exhale all the way, but almost all the way, and hold there. So it's inhaling, pause, exhale, pause, inhale, pause. And do this on your own for a few moments. Noticing what it feels like when you pause with your body full of air. And after the exhale, what it feels like to be empty for a moment or two. And then continue with the inhaling. So it's inhaling, pause, exhaling, pause, inhaling, pause, and exhaling, pause. This brings us present with the immediacy of the breath and its connection to the body. And for me, I'm always so grateful when I pause after the exhale, that when I breathe in, there's air there. It reminds me to be grateful for something simple yet profound. And part of mindfulness is cultivating that gratitude for the simple and the profound. Because when we pay attention, life is amazing. It can be terribly amazing or terribly beautiful, just beautiful. Every moment's different, but it's profound. Even in the simplest action of taking breath. So allow your breath to return to its normal rhythm, keeping your attention there for a moment longer. Being present. To your own experience. Before we come back for a talk, an exploration of inviting grace into our lives. Krishnamurti wrote, "We eventually learn that spirituality is not about leaving life's problems behind, but about continually confronting them with honesty and courage." And before we started the meditation, I mentioned the top 5 regrets, the dying. And 2 of the 5 regrets have to do with courage. The courage to live a life true to ourselves, and the courage to express our feelings. So as we turn our attention inward, because we'd have to turn our attention inward if we want to live a life true to ourselves, we have to know what's true to ourselves. And mindfulness and meditation is a way to become familiar with what is true for ourselves. And it's not easy. The practice is simple, but it's not easy to be true to ourselves until we actually try and we realize how many forces outside of us will steer us one way or the other. But it becomes a regret if we never try, if we never take the time to learn what really nourishes us, what brings us joy, what motivates us, what makes us happy, what makes us want to accomplish something. It takes courage, and it takes attention to within. And to express our feelings. And again, we spend a little bit of time in some of these meetings exploring our emotions and being with them rather than distracting ourselves when it's an unpleasant emotion or an unpleasant feeling. And that's part of mindfulness too, a mindful living. Paying attention to what arises emotionally, exploring it, not identifying ourselves as that emotion, but being informed by that emotion and being with it so it can inform us. And then expressing it in a way that creates a change in our situation, internally and externally. There's a cost to not being able to express our deepest emotions. And most of our deepest emotions have to do with loving and being loved. So it pays to pay attention and to be with part of us that wants expression. Two of the remaining three regrets are wishing we hadn't worked so hard and wishing we had let ourselves be happier. And these two point to kind of a lack of joy or a turning away from joy, either to pursue, achievements in the physical world, material things, status, hard work, climbing a ladder, expensive homes or cars, maybe a prestigious education. So the cost of working for these things could have a cost of what really brings us joy. And being true to ourselves, we have to know. I mean, if it brings us joy and we feel true to ourselves doing these things, that's great. But if it doesn't, if we're giving up something that perhaps is more true to ourselves or does bring us joy, we need the courage to listen within and take another path. And the last of the 5 regrets, wishing we had stayed in touch with our friends, to me seems another way that we have turned away from joy, because friends are joy. That's why we call certain people friends. If they didn't bring joy, we call them something else, but we wouldn't call them friends. And so, again, three of the regrets to me have something to do with where we're turning away from what brings us joy. Now, working hard by itself doesn't mean there's no joy in it, because sometimes working hard is joyous, but then I don't think you'd regret it. So this is only if you regret having worked so hard. So most of these regrets, 4 of them, have non-physical attributes, spiritual attributes: courage, truth, happiness, and joy. So when we're talking about waking the spirit within or attending to the spirit within, we're talking about a path leading to a life with very few regrets. Which kind of equals a life that has joy and happiness and love. But in order for it not to be hard work, because again, we don't want to create that I wish I hadn't worked so hard, when we do make this shift to attending to the spirit within, we need to open up to grace. We need to invite grace into our life, because grace brings a flow with it, more of a flow with life, as life, instead of striving to create a life. And to do this, to invite grace, we need to be willing to make some space for something other than what we are clinging to. Clinging to old beliefs, old habits, old reactions, old assumptions, old defenses. And that's a lot. That's a lot. A lot of those things are what we're constantly involved with. Our habits, our reactions, our assumptions, our beliefs, our defenses. It's a lot. So the other thing we need to do is we need to ask, or at least be open to help from a source other than what is our conditioned idea of what help looks or feels like or comes from. We don't have to define where help is going to come from. We don't have to pick up another belief. But we do have to be open that we have no idea where help or how help or what help will come from. Because then we're only going to look in that direction. And it just doesn't work that way. So we need to let drop some of our preconceived notions of what grace is, what help is, or where it comes from. We can lay that down, but we still need to ask. And we need to be sincere about it. We need to be at a point where we just say, I need help. I want help. And we need to let go of the illusion of control. And control is an illusion. This pandemic makes clear how little control we have. You know, there's a teaching there. But we have an illusion of control. And we need to loosen our grip on that illusion. And the breath can help. Thinking that there's no control or very little control is a little nerve-wracking. That's where the breath comes in. I do it a lot. Different times in my life, I would need to ground myself. Sometimes in the middle of the night, I need to ground myself with the breath because it's an uncomfortable feeling to realize I don't really have control. Now, I'm not saying, you know, don't have control of the steering wheel of your car or, you know, making a list or making dinner. I'm not talking about that kind of control, but we need to, if we're going to accept grace, because grace is going to work differently for everybody because we're unique. We need to have a more relaxed, open perception or that little surrender with the exhale. Surrender to what might be available, you know, without creating a story or fixating on certain preconceived notions of any of this. So we need to relax and kind of let go of our understanding of what is and what's this and what is that. We need to make space around our idea of reality and on our grip of being so certain that we know something. Because we don't know. There's so much more we don't know than what we know. Practicing with the breath allows us to be open, to be curious, to be attentive in the moment. And I speak to this because I've gone through this. I have gone through this. I've been doing this for almost 20 years, and I wrote a book about it, about just 4 years of it that were incredibly intense. And these are the things I illustrate in my book. So I'm not reading articles and then coming back and telling you this stuff. I lived it. And this is what I had to do to invite grace into my life. And I didn't use the term grace back then. I just asked for help as I was going through what I knew but I knew I was living on the surface of life and I was going to regret certain things. I could tell that I knew if I didn't change direction, I was going to have regrets because I was now in my 40s and something had to change. And it did. And these are the things I had to do, what I just said to you. And grace did enter my life. It entered it incredibly one day in July of 2003. And it was incredible. It was nothing I could have ever expected, ever conjured up. And it just happened. And it was amazing. And nothing was ever the same since then. And I can only attribute it to grace because, like I said, I couldn't have had made that happen. And it happened during a meditation. It happened in a moment of gratitude. And I kind of describe it. I don't talk about it often, but it was like knowing the mind of God with no definition of God. It was just there. It was reality in its truest sense. And so grace works, reveals itself to everybody uniquely. But if you're sincere about wanting to bring it into your life and ask without preconceived notions, grace will come. And then this isn't such hard work. It's something we want and we do and we make time for. And we live a life with very few regrets. So Hafiz, a poet, because it's very difficult to talk about these things, but he gives us a glimpse with this poem. It's called I Am So Glad. Start seeing everything as God, but keep it a secret. Become like a man who is awestruck and nourished, listening to a golden nightingale sing in a beautiful foreign language while God invisibly nests upon its tongue. Hafiz, who can you tell in this world that when a dog runs up to you, wagging its ecstatic tail, you lean down and whisper in its ear, beloved, I am so glad you are happy to see me. Beloved, I am so glad, so very glad you have come. So for Hafiz, that ecstatic dog was God. The sound of a nightingale's chirping and singing was God. There wasn't any reason to define one thing as God, this is God, this isn't. What brought him joy, this dog was beloved. So that's that openness. That's that no need to define, but to invite joy, grace, happiness into our lives and attending to those things, courage, truth, happiness, the within environment, to bring it forth, to make it into the foreground as opposed to the background. So I'm going to unmute and pause the recording. Okay, so oh yes, I'm going to have to mute everybody. Okay. All righty. So again, getting comfortable, taking a moment to attend to that miracle of your body, especially if you're feeling well and healthy. It's working great. All those billions and trillions, I don't know if there's trillions of cells, I don't really know, but there's billions. I know there's at least billions of cells all working together so you can be here and conscious and do that beautiful sharing we just did, and taking this in and learning to be present to existence and interconnection, understanding our need to love and be loved, and learning to be true to ourselves and asking for help, not knowing in what form or what way that help will come, but being open to being uncertain about what's this and what's that and who and what we are. So again, if you feel comfortable, you can close your eyes or keep a soft gaze. Bring your attention to your breath, specifically the sensation of breath entering and leaving the body. We call this an anchor. Bringing the attention, having the attention anchored by the sensation of breath. There's no need to manipulate the breath at this time, just to notice it. And the mind will wander. It's the nature of the mind. But the awareness of your mind, of the mind, is more powerful, more true to what you really are. The awareness of the breath, the thoughts, the sound, of the sensations in the body, the awareness. The awareness holds it all. We don't know its source, but it is. And you are. And it is grace when we pay attention. So I invite you to notice the breath for a few moments in silence, and then I'll guide you in our last meditation for this series. Resting our attention on the breath. It's always there. Get lost in thought. Find the breath. Let everything be as it is. Let every situation in your life be as it is. Let everyone in your life be as they are. Let yourself be exactly as you are. Notice sensations as they are, coming, leaving. Let the body be as it is, miraculous, temporary, wonderful, sometimes not so wonderful. Let it be as it is. Let the sounds in the room be as they are. Let my voice be as it is. Let the thoughts in your mind be what they are. Do not deny or follow any thought. Let your emotions come and go exactly as they are. Let this time be what unfolds. Let this moment be what it is. Let it be as it is now and now and now. Gathering your attention, rest it on the breath. Breathing in, breathing out, noticing the breath entering and leaving the body. Breathe in this moment and this moment. Noticing where your attention is, kindly bring it back to the breath. No judging, nothing is wrong. Notice the sensation of stillness in your body. Nurture yourself with the gift of stillness and presence. When your mind wanders and you notice, honor the mind, the thought. You can even say to yourself, I'm curious about you. The wonder of you. Noticing where the attention is, kindly returning to the breath, aware in this moment, feeling alive still, present, kind, curious, compassionate, home. You don't have to act crazy anymore. We all know you were good at that. Now retire, my dear, from all that hard work you do of bringing pain to your sweet eyes and heart. Look in a clear mountain mirror. See the beautiful ancient warrior and the divine elements you always carry inside that infused this universe with sacred life so long ago, and join you eternally with all existence, with God.